I was in a car accident. When I opened my eyes in the hospital, the first thing I noticed was that my husband wasn't there. But I didn't blame him. He had a demanding job, and as a thoughtful, understanding Omega, I wasn't the type to throw a tantrum over something like this. He probably just hadn't gotten the news yet. With that in mind, I reached for my phone and opened my contacts. It didn't take long to find his name. Idiot A. Ethan Carter. My thumb hovered over the screen for a second, my lips curling into a soft smile. Couples in love always give each other silly nicknames, right? Idiot A was my personal favorite, half teasing, half affectionate. But today, I felt like something sweeter, something a little more obvious. I changed it to Hubby Love. Satisfied, I hit the call button. The dial tone barely rang a few times before a low, deep voice answered, "Speak." One word, steady, cool, commanding. So him. So perfectly my husband. I wrinkled my nose and softened my voice. "Hubby, when are you coming to get me? I'm in the hospital all alone, and kinda scared." Silence. 10 long seconds ticked by. I started to wonder if he'd hung up. Then, finally, "Ryan, did you accidentally soak your brain in the bathtub this morning?" "Huh?" I blinked. "What?" His voice was colder than usual, tinged with something sharp. It made me uneasy, like I'd said something wrong. Still, I tried to hold it together. I lowered my voice and mumbled, "You're really not coming? I'm hurt. I just wanted to see you." Another pause, then more cautiously this time. "You're actually in the hospital?" I nodded quickly. I am. Send me the address." He hung up. I didn't waste a second, typing out the hospital's location and my room number, and despite how strange his reaction had been, I told myself it was just him being him. Ethan always had a habit of hiding his emotions behind a wall of cold logic. Deep down, I knew he cared. He just wasn't good at showing it. I sat in bed, bored, tugging at the edge of the blanket. 20 minutes later, the door creaked open. And there he was, tall, composed, and exuding quiet authority. His tailored suit hugged his frame perfectly, one hand resting on the door handle. A luxury watch peeked out from under his sleeve, and even in the soft light of the hospital room, his sharp features were breathtaking. Tight jaw, piercing gaze, the kind of presence that made the air feel heavier. God, he was handsome. My heart stuttered as I watched him approach, each step steady and deliberate. I could already hear it in my head, what he was going to say next. "Who said you were allowed to get hurt?" That possessive, overbearing tone only he could make sound so intoxicating. He stopped at the side of my bed, towering over me, then leaned in slightly, lips curled in the faintest smirk. Wow, that karmic backlash really hit fast, didn't it? I blinked, confused. What was he even talking about? Still dazed, I reached up and gently tugged at the hem of his suit jacket. "I didn't get hurt on purpose," I murmured. Lowering my gaze, cheeks warming, I added shyly, "So, could you go easy on me tonight? When you punish me?" For a moment, Ethan froze. His eyes drifted down to where my hand gripped his jacket. His expression darkened. Ethan took me to see the doctor. That's just how a caring husband should be, unable to tolerate even the slightest issue with me. In the examination room, the doctor asked me a bunch of ridiculous questions like, "Who is he to you? What's your relationship?" Seriously. Then he looked at my CT scan and clicked his tongue like it was some sort of miracle. His brows furrowed as he frowned at the screen, clearly troubled. He and Ethan ended up talking for quite a while. I sat a short distance away, not able to hear much of what they were saying. Whatever it was, I wasn't interested. I just wanted to go home, with my husband. Eventually, they finished, and I saw Ethan walking toward me. Delighted, I instinctively opened my arms, ready to throw myself into his embrace like I always did. But this time, he raised a hand and stopped me before I could get close. His voice was oddly stiff. "Walk properly." I froze in place, stunned. Ethan hadn't pushed me away like that in ages. What was going on? Before I could even gather my thoughts, he grabbed my arm and said curtly, "Let's go." Nervous and confused, I followed him out to the car. As we sat inside the luxurious vehicle, I quietly reassured myself. Maybe he was just being shy because of the people around. Maybe he didn't want to show affection in public. Yeah, that had to be it. The car glided smoothly along the road. I wanted to speak to him, but the look on his face kept me quiet. Then suddenly, Ethan broke the silence. "Ryan, I don't think you understand your situation right now." His voice was calm, but cold. "You hit your head. Something's clearly wrong." He glanced at me, serious. I'm not your husband." My eyes flew open wide. I turned to him in disbelief. "What did you say?" Panic rose up in my chest. My voice trembled. "Hubby, are you saying you don't want me anymore?" Ethan kept his eyes on the road. "I never did." The words hit me like a slap. I knew I had to do something, anything, but my emotions weren't cooperating. So, quietly, I dug my fingernails into the skin of my arm, pinching myself hard. Just like that, a single tear slipped down my cheek. I probably looked so pitiful right now. Eyes misty, lips quivering. A perfect image of heartbreak. Ethan cursed under his breath, his knuckles tightening around the steering wheel. "Ryan, you're ruthless. Even with brain damage, you're still tormenting me, huh?" His tone shifted, less cold, more conflicted. He was softening. I could feel it. I let out a tiny breath of relief and said sweetly, "Hubby, you know I can't live without you." Ethan didn't reply. Soon, the car pulled up in front of a large villa. I looked out the window and instantly went pale. Tears welled up again as I whispered, "Hubby, this isn't our home." Ethan's expression stiffened. 2 seconds passed before he muttered, "I was tired of driving. Can't I stop to rest?" I knew this place well. It was the little villa Ethan had set up for me when I was still his pampered favorite. But ever since we got married, I had moved into the Carter family estate and never came back here. Thankfully, he didn't linger long. A moment later, he restarted the engine and drove toward the place we both called home. We were finally home. I threw myself onto the soft couch with joy, sinking into its cushions like a kid returning from war. After lying there for a while, I started to feel a bit thirsty, so I got up and headed to the kitchen for some water. That's when I noticed something strange. My cup was gone. Not just the cup. My everyday things, my toothbrush, my bowl, my clothes, all of it had vanished. I swallowed the ache rising in my chest and tried to stay calm as I called out, "Hubby, where are my things?" But even as I asked, my voice trembled uncontrollably. Across the room, Ethan stood with his arms crossed, a cold smirk tugging at his lips. "What now? Planning to crown yourself king next? Or maybe you want me to go ahead and put your name on the deed too?" Something inside me cracked. Ethan had changed. I couldn't deny it anymore. He no longer whispered sweet words to coax me, no longer pulled me into his arms with warmth, no longer kissed me like he couldn't get enough of me. Back at the hospital, he'd even turned away when I tried to hug him. That rejection stung deeper than I could admit. I stood there in silence, trying to piece it together. Something he said earlier kept echoing in my head. "Your brain's broken." Did he mean I'd become stupid? That he didn't want me anymore? After all, the reason he fell for me in the first place was because of how clever I was. I stood frozen, my face pale, then slowly walked toward him. With trembling fingers, I gently tugged at his sleeve and looked up at him. "Hubby, my brain's not broken. I'm still smart. Please don't stop wanting me." The tall alpha in front of me faltered for a moment, then his voice softened, just slightly. "I had your stuff replaced. It'll be delivered soon." My eyes lit up, a spark of hope blooming in my chest. I looked up eagerly. "Then I want us to keep using matching couple sets, okay?" Ethan stared at me, lips parted like he wanted to say something, then stopped himself. After a long pause, he ground out a reluctant, "Fine." This couldn't go on. If Ethan truly wanted to cast me aside, then everything, my life, my career, my family, would be over. Without him, I'd have nothing. I still remember the me from a few years ago. My father had disappeared. My mother was seriously ill, and all the weight of survival had fallen on me, a university student who hadn't even graduated. That's when I met Ethan Carter. It was at the bar where I worked part-time. Under the glittering lights, he sat there like he owned the world, powerful, composed, swirling a glass of wine between his fingers, eyes locked onto me. And then, he extended a hand. At the time, I had no way out. So I said yes. Yes to becoming his lover in the shadows. He helped me finish school, paid for my mother's treatments. In return, he took complete control of my life. Ethan pampered me, protected me, and gave me a life most people could only dream of. But then, one day, I overheard one of his friends talking, and I learned the truth. I was a stand-in. The person Ethan truly loved, his first love, his white moonlight, had gone abroad. And I, someone who merely resembled that person, had been chosen to fill the empty space beside him. Shock, regret, pain. I decided to leave him. But Ethan Carter, dominant, ruthless, a man who ruled the entire city of Z like a king, wouldn't let me go. He said he truly loved me now, that he wanted to marry me. And after all the misunderstandings, all the chaos between us, we did end up together. We got married, and somewhere along the way, I really did fall in love with him. Now, I don't want to leave him, and even if I did, I can't, because everything I have now, everything, was given to me by him. Even if I stop thinking about myself, I can't bear to let my mother suffer again. I took a deep breath and clenched my fists. I have to win back his love. With my sharp mind and good looks, how hard could it be? Night had fallen. I sat at the edge of the bed, dressed in the brand new pajamas Ethan had his assistant send over. A few minutes later, the sound of running water from the bathroom stopped. Ethan stepped out, towel drying his damp hair, looking every bit the aloof alpha he was. I'd planned this moment carefully, positioned myself at just the right angle under the soft ceiling light to let the glow fall perfectly across my face. When he emerged, I glanced up with just the right mix of innocence and allure. Under the warm light, my skin would look pale and flawless, absolutely stunning. What I didn't expect was for him to instantly take a step back, without hesitation. His brow twitched as he muttered, "What is this, a horror movie?" I pouted. Straight alpha men, completely void of appreciation for aesthetic effort. But I didn't let it get to me. I pressed on, sweetly saying, "Hubby, it's late, let's go to bed." His robe was slightly loose, and I couldn't help but catch a glimpse of those firm abs peeking through. My gaze dropped instinctively, and I quickly licked my lips, cheeks burning at my own reaction. And yet, all he said was, "Go sleep in the other room, now." My heart dropped. "Hubby, saying that, you might as well ask me to jump off the balcony." Ethan let out a sigh and rubbed his forehead, slowly turning in a half circle, clearly trying to hide his inner conflict. In the end, he compromised. We didn't sleep in separate rooms, but we did sleep under separate blankets. Of course, I wasn't exactly thrilled, but then Ethan said, "Just behave. I had a master read our fortune today. Apparently, if we share a blanket right now, we'll end up bankrupt." I opened my mouth to argue, but the words died in my throat. Fine. Even if wealth is just one of his many minor qualities, if we went bankrupt, we'd be sleeping on the street. Not exactly romantic. So I clutched the edge of my blanket and closed my eyes, feeling unfairly wronged, but saying nothing. The card Ethan gave me was gone. When I realized it, it felt like a bolt of lightning straight to the chest. I'm just an Omega who has no one else to rely on. Without that card, how was I supposed to, well, live? Eat, drink, have fun. I mean, survive. Live a normal life. So when Ethan came home from work that evening, I quietly scooted up beside him, hesitating, not quite sure how to bring it up. It wasn't that I was obsessed with money or material things. I'm not that kind of Omega, but still, asking for money? That wasn't easy. Ethan glanced at me, then took 3 deliberate steps away. Ouch, that stung. Still, I gathered up my courage and finally opened my mouth. "Hubby, the card you gave me, it's gone. Could you maybe give me a bit more money?" He blinked. "What?" His voice was full of disbelief. "I haven't even charged you rent, and now you're asking me for money." I stared at him, confused. "But haven't you always been the one giving me money?" "I don't have anything left." He gave a cold laugh. "You literally snatched a business project out of my hands last month." What was he talking about? I had no idea, but one thing was clear. He didn't want to give me money. My shoulders sank as I looked away, disappointed. "All right then, if you really don't want to, I'll figure something out. Worst case, I'll go sell things on the street." Ethan didn't even blink. "Go far away if you do, preferably to the East District." The East District? That was halfway across the city. Still, he was just being stubborn. Because later that night, right before bed, he handed me a sleek black card. I knew it. He still cared. And with how possessive he is, there's no way he'd let me go out and show myself off in public like that. I looked up at him, deeply touched. "Thank you, hubby," Ethan replied lazily. "I'm keeping track, with interest." It had been nearly 2 weeks since the car accident, and Ethan still wouldn't touch me. Depressed and discouraged, I'd even started ordering fewer takeout meals, cutting back from 2 servings to just 1. That's when I decided it was time to take action. Everyone says the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So I sent Ethan a message. "Hubby, make sure you come home early tonight. I'm cooking a special dinner just for you." His reply came fast. "Who even wants your takeout?" I scoffed. So that's what he thought of me? He was seriously underestimating me. As a capable and thrifty Omega, Mastering the art of home cooking should be child's play. Fueled by confidence, I charged straight into the kitchen. Only once I stood there, staring at the stove, my mind went completely blank. Maybe it was a side effect from the accident, but I couldn't remember anything about cooking. So I whipped out my phone and looked up some tutorials. Then I dug through the fridge, grabbed a few random ingredients, and started throwing things together. 30 minutes later, thick smoke was billowing out of the kitchen. Coughing, eyes stinging, I bolted out of the house, walk still in hand, and ran straight into Ethan, who had just pulled into the driveway. Panicked, I rushed over to him. "Hubby! I think the kitchen just spontaneously combusted." Ethan blinked at me. "You blew up the kitchen? Didn't even bother pretending this time." Luckily, there was no actual fire. He marched inside, opened the windows, and aired the place out. Then he looked into the pot with a furrowed brow. This pile of... He trailed off. Clearly, there was no word strong enough to describe what I had made. Honestly, I didn't know either. Still, I felt a deep wave of shame and shut my eyes. "Hubby, I haven't cooked in a while. I'm just a bit rusty. Please don't be mad." He snorted. "Rusty? You've never cooked." He yanked the spatula out of my hand, then gave me a once-over head to toe. His voice was stiff. "You didn't burn yourself, did you?" I knew it. He still cared. I wiped away an imaginary tear. "Nope." In the end, Ethan took me out to eat. That night, while lying in bed, he said in his usual calm tone, "Next time, just say what you want. No more playing with fire. If you're hungry, tell the housekeeper." Okay. I still felt a bit rattled by what had happened earlier, so without thinking, I threw myself into his arms. I didn't realize how hard I landed until Ethan let out a muffled grunt. "Are you trying to kill me in my sleep?" It had been so long since I got to snuggle with my husband like this. Feeling his solid, muscular body beneath me, I couldn't help but grin. Without a word, I slipped my hand under his blanket and looked up at him. "Hubby, I get it. I won't go near the kitchen again. It's just a shame I won't get to cook you anything from the heart anymore." Ethan's body tensed slightly. He lifted his hand. I thought he was about to push me away again, but instead, his palm settled gently on the back of my head, pressing me against his chest. "Idiot. You think I care about your cooking?" I could feel his chest vibrate with every word. Beneath his serious tone, there was clear concern. "Do you have zero sense of self-preservation? No more stunts like that, understand?" I smiled sweetly. "I knew you were worried about me." Ethan went still. "I'm just worried this place is going to become a crime scene." I said nothing. I'd long since seen through his cold front. He was all soft underneath. After a long moment of quiet, his voice dropped again. "All right, that's enough. You've been groping me for a while now. Don't tell me you don't know where your hand is." "Oops." I awkwardly pulled my paw away from his abs. So, winning his heart through his stomach clearly wasn't going to work. Time to move on to plan B. After thinking it through, I realized there was only one surefire method left: seduction. I remembered the kinds of games we used to play, so I immediately placed a few late-night orders for some very special outfits. Naturally, I didn't just sit around waiting for the delivery. Nope. I spent the next few days slowly ramping up physical contact with Ethan. With a body like mine on full display, he might resist on day 1, maybe even day 10. But there's no way he can hold out forever. No man can. I was determined to tempt him, to make his self-control snap. With my strategy in place, I sprang into action. That evening, Ethan was sitting on the couch in the living room. I walked over looking totally casual and sat down right beside him. Our legs brushed. The heat was instant. Ethan glanced at me out of the corner of his eye, then subtly slid away. I followed. He moved again. I moved again. 4 times later, his low voice finally rumbled. "What? That side of the couch burning your ass?" "Hubby." I laced my arms through his and clung tightly. "It just feels safe being close to you." For a moment, there was something soft in Ethan's brown eyes, but he quickly composed himself and said flatly, 5 months and 4 days ago, you tripped on flat ground and landed on my leg. Said you wanted to chop something off me." "Huh?" I looked confused and gently patted his arm. "You poor thing. Were you having a nightmare? You must not have been sleeping well back then." His brows twitched. He didn't answer. But the important part was, he didn't push me away. That was enough to encourage me. I turned to look at his sharp jawline and leaned in, gently placing a kiss on his cheek. Ethan stiffened. Then suddenly he grabbed my wrist, his eyes dark and unreadable. "Ryan, you're really laying it on thick tonight. What, planning to chop something off again after this?" I blinked innocently. I would never think that way. I lowered my voice, pouting slightly. Hubby, it's been so long since you even touched me. Ethan narrowed his eyes. You actually want me to? Of course, I said without hesitation. You're my husband. You can do whatever you want with me. My cheeks flushed after I said it. I mean, I'm still a modest Omega. Saying things like that was kind of mortifying. After a moment, Ethan slowly reached out and placed his palm on the side of my face. His cool fingertips grazed my skin as he gently stroked my cheek. You sure you won't regret this? I licked my lips. I'm sure. I won't regret it. Ethan's eyes gleamed with mischief. He pulled out his phone. Let's get that in writing. Say it again for the record, I pouted. He really didn't trust me, huh? But fine. I nodded. Once the recorder was on, I spoke clearly. Ethan Carter is my husband. He's my alpha. He can do whatever he wants to me, and I won't regret it. Right after I finished, Ethan tossed his phone aside and suddenly leaned in and kissed me. His lips brushed against mine, warm and firm, so close, so intoxicating. My heart skipped like crazy, a dizzying rush flooding through my veins. We'd kissed before, but why did this time feel so much more intense? He didn't deepen it, just kept the kiss light, lips barely grazing. Then he pulled back, and with one last playful nip on my lower lip, he stood up. His voice came out rough, a little strained. I'm going upstairs. And just like that, he walked away. I sat frozen on the couch, staring after him in a daze. Then my gaze drifted to his perfectly tailored suit pants and the shapely backside underneath. Suddenly, I had the urge to kick it. I slapped myself in the face to drive away that unholy thought. A soft scent still lingered in the air. Petals falling over snowy peaks, ice meeting fire, the mingling scent of our pheromones. My seduction plan was clearly working. That little victory gave me a boost of confidence, and I was already planning my next move. 2 days later, the clothes I had ordered finally arrived. Today's outfit? A sleek DK-style school uniform. A light gray knitted vest layered over a crisp white shirt, the tie neatly knotted at the collar. Just loose enough to tease a glimpse of pale skin. I even styled my hair just right. A perfect throwback to when Ethan first met me, back when I was just a fresh-faced college student. Not long after, I heard the front gate open. Ethan was back. I quickly struck a pose at the table near the entrance, rolling up my sleeves slightly and flipping through a book with graceful fingers. And the moment Ethan stepped through the door, I lifted my head, eyes curved in a smile, lips tugging up at the corners. Welcome home, hubby. Ethan immediately paused, his eyes scanning me with surprise. You went to a cosplay convention today? Nope. I walked up to him, holding the book in hand so he could get a closer look. Don't you miss seeing me like this? He took the book from my hand and let out a short laugh. What's this, 3rd grade reading material? Ryan, are you role-playing as a kid now? I blinked. What? That book was something I borrowed from a neighborhood auntie at random. I hadn't even checked the cover. A 3rd grade textbook? My face flushed bright red as I snatched it back and quickly placed it on the table behind me. That's not the point, I muttered. I looked up at him with wide eyes. I dressed up just for you, you know. Do I look good? Ethan looked at me quietly for a few seconds. Then, for once, he didn't tease me, just rested his hand on my head and said, Yeah, not bad. I took that as a green light and threw myself into his arms. To my surprise, he didn't push me away. Instead, he wrapped one arm securely around my waist, holding me close. As we stood there, I couldn't help but reminisce. Do you remember, hubby? Back in college, we first met at that bar. I was being harassed, and you showed up like a knight in shining armor. After that, you took me in, paid for my tuition, and covered my mom's medical bills. I think that's when I really fell for you. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, Does your mom know she's being treated overseas? Yeah, I smiled. You even arranged for her to be admitted to the best hospital abroad. She's doing well now. After a while longer in his arms, Ethan gently unwrapped me from him and led me to the couch. Then he suddenly said, Give me your phone. I blinked in surprise, but handed it over after unlocking it. You're really okay with me looking? He asked. I nodded confidently. Of course. A husband checking your phone? That just proves how much he cares. Ethan tapped open a red app icon on my screen, an old reading app I hadn't touched in a while. I wasn't sure what he was looking for, but as a sweet and obedient Omega, I kept quiet and didn't ask. He scrolled through the app quickly, his expression shifting with every swipe, from confusion to shock to helpless disbelief, and finally to deadpan acceptance. After a long moment, he sighed and said dryly, "Found it. The source of all evil." I still wasn't sure what Ethan had seen on my phone that night, but ever since his attitude had clearly softened compared to the day I got discharged. A win's a win. I had a good feeling. It wouldn't be long before he came around completely. That night, I clutched the edge of my blanket and glanced at him hopefully. "Ethan," I whispered, "can we finally share the same blanket tonight?" He didn't even hesitate. "No." I slumped. "Why not?" He sighed dramatically, as if I were asking him to run a marathon. "Do I look like a Ninja Turtle to you?" My eyes flicked up. Wait a second. There's definitely another meaning hidden in there. "Ah, we've been married so long, and you're still getting shy?" I teased. "Not shy," he muttered. "I'm scared." "Scared of what?" "Scared you'll try to chop something off again." Ah, so the nightmare still haunted him. I knew I had to prove myself this time. So, when he least expected it, I lifted the blanket and dove into his side with a grin. Gold miner Ryan is on the move. With mischievous determination, I reached under the covers. Let's see how solid my husband's treasure really is. Ethan froze for a split second before catching on and grabbing my wrist firmly. "Ryan, have you completely lost it?" He was an alpha, after all, physically stronger. I couldn't pull away from his grip, so I pouted dramatically and gave him the saddest look I could muster. "Ethan, look at me. I don't believe for a second that you feel nothing." Maybe my eyes were too convincing, or maybe he was just tired of resisting. Either way, his grip loosened. Victory. I struck fast. "Gotcha," I chirped. My hand landed right where I aimed. But the second I made contact, I immediately froze. A jolt shot through me, so much so that I retracted my hand in pure shock. Was he always like that? Or had I just forgotten? Before I could sort out my thoughts, the world flipped. In a blink, Ethan had both my wrists pinned above my head, his knees locking me in place. His stormy gaze bore down on me, the flush on his neck spreading up to his ears. He leaned in close, pinched my cheek with surprising gentleness, and gritted through his teeth. "You little lunatic." I opened my mouth to say something back, but he silenced me with a kiss. A real one. Deep and unrelenting. Our breaths tangled, lips pressed tight, heat rising with every second. I tilted my head back, letting myself get swept away in the wildfire. It wasn't our first kiss, but it felt brand new, so intense it made my heart race like never before. As we kissed, our pheromones began to bloom. His was sharp and cool, like a snowstorm rolling down a mountain, icy, clean, and undeniably dominant. But the moment it touched my skin, it softened, becoming like mountain mist, calm and steady. His hands released mine. Instinctively, I wrapped my arms around his neck, holding him close. My own pheromones responded, sweet, soft, a light cherry blossom scent weaving through the air like silk on wind. Time blurred. I don't know how long we kissed, long enough that I could barely breathe. When he finally pulled back, both of us were panting, faces flushed, skin warm. His eyes still held a trace of restraint. Mine had none. Clinging to him, I murmured, "Ethan, it's been so long since you marked me." My gaze was hazy, voice low and tempting. "Just one bite, please?" His throat bobbed as he swallowed, voice hoarse. "Ryan, it's too late to back out now." His hand slid behind my neck, sending shivers down my spine. "Get on your stomach, sweetheart." My whole body trembled as I rolled over, clutching the pillow. Then, his teeth brushed my nape. It didn't hurt. Instead, it was like being dipped into warm water. His pheromones poured into me like melting snow, rushing through my veins, calming and possessive. Mine rushed to meet his, cherry blossom sweetness curling into the cool mountain air. Entwining. Merging. In that moment, it felt like the whole world had gone quiet. Just us. Just this connection, sealed and deepened. Turns out the after effects of that temporary marking were no joke. Now I practically wanted to glue myself to Ethan 24/7. Unfortunately, he still had to go to work to provide for the both of us. Life is so hard for a pampered omega like me. One evening, after he got home, Ethan handed me a stack of papers. "Sign these," he said, sounding casual. "I already reviewed them. Everything's fine." I blinked in confusion, flipping through the pages with zero comprehension. Just reading them made my head throb. Was this the feeling of my brain trying to grow? I frowned. Honey, what is all this?" "It's paperwork from your company," Ethan replied. "Did you block your assistant?" They ended up coming to me instead. I scrunched my nose. I only block scammers. Still, since my husband said it was all good, I trusted him. Without another thought, I signed them all with a flourish. Maybe it was a surprise inheritance from him. Wait, no, I mean shared marital property. Ahem. Once I finished signing, I made my way over to him and plopped onto his lap like the sweet, loving spouse I was. Looping my arms around his neck, I snuggled against his solid alpha chest and tilted my face up expectantly. Kiss? Ethan leaned down and gently captured my lips, warm and unhurried. As he kissed me, he released a bit of his pheromones. The soothing scent immediately washed over me, and I couldn't help but squint in bliss. Wonder when my brain will finally recover, I murmured, still a little foggy from earlier. I faintly heard Ethan mumble something against my ear, although you're kind of cute like this. A smug smile crept across my face. He's totally still head over heels for me. And at long last, I'd finally gotten my wish. We were now sharing the same blanket. That's right, same bed, same blanket. Dream accomplished. Of course, there was still one little problem. He still refused to go all the way. And not only that, he repeatedly reminded me not to ambush him like I did last time. So in order to keep enjoying my warm, cuddly husband at bedtime, I had no choice but to reluctantly behave myself. For now. Today, I changed into my second outfit from the collection I secretly ordered. A sweet, slightly scandalous butler uniform. Black and white trim, frilly edges barely brushing the tops of my thighs. A sheer pair of white stockings clung tightly to my legs, held in place with thigh garters. It was my first time trying something like this. Admittedly, it felt a bit strange, but if I wanted Ethan to unleash his inner beast, I had to go all in. As the clock neared his usual time to come home, I added the final touch, a pair of fluffy cat ears. Yes, you heard me, cat ears. I spotted his car pulling into the driveway and ran to the entryway, ready to make my move. The moment the front door opened, I struck a pose and purred softly, "Meow, welcome home." Ethan just looked at me for a few seconds, expression unreadable. Then, to my horror, he walked straight past me. He headed into the kitchen, then circled around the living room, then stepped out onto the balcony. Busy as ever, though I had no clue what he was even pretending to do. My confidence took a serious hit. Frustrated and a little deflated, I followed behind him like a pouty little tail. Wherever he went, I went. "Hey," I said, a little grumpy. "Don't you have anything to say?" Ethan replied with a flat tone, so full of tricks. But there wasn't even a hint of annoyance in his voice. Encouraged, I rushed forward and hugged him tightly from behind, stopping his never-ending pacing. "I dressed up just for you," I mumbled, cheek pressed to his back. "You being so cold. Aren't you being a little disrespectful to your cute, obedient Omega?" Ethan suddenly turned and pinned me against the wall. His eyes were dark and stormy, his breathing just a little off. My face burned red as I poked his chest. "What's wrong, Mr. Carter? Are you playing with fire?" "What are you even saying?" he muttered. Then he leaned in dangerously close and said, voice low and rough, "Ryan, I'm not touching you because your brain still hasn't fully recovered. But if you get better and then try to leave me, I swear I'll make sure you're mine for life." "Wait, what?" I stared at him, trembling from head to toe, my skin prickling with excitement. Yes, this was the Ethan I knew. Possessive, ruthless, and just a little unhinged. The one I secretly loved the most. I pecked him on the lips and batted my eyes. "So, can we fast forward to the part where you claim me now?" Without warning, Ethan bent down and lifted me up, hands gripping my thighs a little too firmly. My stomach landed on his shoulder and I instantly yelped, "Ah! Put me down!" Apparently that killed the vibe. With a deep sigh, Ethan adjusted me into a bridal carry instead, and brought me into the bedroom. I sank into the plush mattress as he leaned over me, cool breath fanning my face. His fingertips trailed down to my neck, pressing gently on the gland there. His pheromones seeped in, cool and sharp, like the rush of alpine air. But inside me, it sparked a wildfire. I couldn't stop the soft whimper that escaped, which, of course, earned me a light smack. "Don't make that sound," Ethan muttered. "It reminds me too much of the stuff you pulled back when you were being a little gremlin." I stared at him, teary-eyed and confused. He looked down at me, then flipped me over and kissed me hard. The skirt I was wearing? Ripped clean in half. His strong hands slid down my thighs with a firm grip. The room filled with the blend of our pheromones, his like snow-covered mountains, crisp and biting. Mine, like gentle sakura blossoms in spring. And no, we didn't cross that final line. But he definitely wore me out, flipping me over and tossing me around like a laundry cycle. By the end of it all, I was shaking like a leaf, arms aching, legs sore, utterly spent. Good news, Ethan Carter had finally come back to me. He was once again the loving, devoted husband I remembered. Kisses before he left for work and before bed, catching me in his arms whenever I ran to greet him at the door, surprising me with little gifts every day. Even setting time aside from his packed schedule just to go on dates with me. I thought this happiness would last forever. I thought we were finally safe. But then, it happened. That day, I was cheerfully scrolling through social media when something caught my eye. A new post from Ethan's friend, Chris Lynn. Young Master Shen is finally back in the country. See y'all tonight at Elysium. The photo showed a slender figure standing under an airport sign, holding a bouquet of flowers. The Omega's delicate frame was bathed in golden sunlight streaming through the glass ceiling, glowing like a scene from a dream. My heart sank the moment I recognized who it was. That person was none other than Shen, Ethan's first love. His white moonlight? He was back? Suddenly, alarm bells rang in my head. Would Ethan still have feelings for him? Was he still thinking about him? The idea stabbed through my chest like ice. Would Ethan leave me if Chiron reappeared in his life? Panic surged in my chest, stealing my breath. I scrambled to open our chat. Just half an hour ago, Ethan had messaged me saying he had to work overtime tonight and would be home late. Overtime? At the same time, Chiron just returned? My stomach twisted. No way that was just a coincidence. No, was he planning to see Shen Chiron tonight? The thought hit me so hard I had to sit down. But after a moment of silent heartache, I straightened up. I couldn't just sit here and wait for fate to take him away. I had to act, do something now to make sure Ethan stayed by my side. To make sure he couldn't leave me. I only had one idea. That night, I asked the housekeeper to prepare a massive dinner spread. I forced myself to eat 3 big bowls, even though every bite felt like chewing rubber. When my once flat belly finally showed the tiniest curve of a food baby, I chugged an entire bottle of soda, letting it all bloat me just right. Then I picked up my phone and dialed his number. He picked up almost immediately. What's wrong? Babe? I drew out my voice like a whimper, soft and pitiful. My stomach kinda hurts. Can you come home and be with me? Stomach pain? I heard a shuffle on his end, like he'd stood up quickly. His deep, worried voice came through, firm and gentle all at once. I'm heading back right now. What kind of pain? Cramping or nausea? There's medicine in the cabinet, 2nd row, 3rd box. Wait, forget it. Don't risk taking the wrong one. Just wait for me. I'll be right there. Actually, how do you feel now? Do you think you have enough strength to take a taxi to the hospital? He was so patient, so careful with his words. Every sentence was laced with concern. It tugged at my heart. I did feel a tiny bit guilty, but only a little. No need for that, I whispered into the phone. Just come home soon. I have something I want to tell you. Okay, he replied. And just like that, the plan was set in motion. 20 minutes later, Ethan Carter came home. The moment he stepped through the door, he strode straight to my side, carefully scanning me from head to toe, especially my face, as if checking for signs of pain. Even though I tried hard to look pale and fragile, my cheeks were way too flushed. Clearly, I'd overcommitted to the performance. Ethan narrowed his eyes, suspicion flashing across his face. Still hurting? I shyly looked down, my fingers nervously twisting in my shirt. Babe, actually, I think I'm pregnant with your baby. Ethan blinked. Huh? He paused. His eyes flicked toward the still cluttered dinner table we hadn't cleared yet. Then came his deadpan reply. You mean you're pregnant with the spicy crayfish? Busted. I panicked for a second, but tried to stay in character. I quickly lifted my shirt, revealing the tiny curve in my belly. Look! I'm serious. There's really a baby in there. Ethan sighed, gently lowering my shirt again and pulling me into his arms. Sweetheart, he said patiently, if you really want a baby, we'll try later. But your brain's still not fully recovered. I'm scared that might get passed on. He gave my belly a light pat, then actually started rubbing it for me. How much did you eat tonight? Let me help you digest. His touch was warm and comforting, but I was still mad. He didn't believe me. My lips turned down into a pout. Do you not like our baby? Ethan raised an eyebrow. Okay, but how exactly did you get pregnant? Then, suspiciously, you didn't cheat on me, did you? Of course not, I glared at him. Did you forget? That night 3 months ago, we went absolutely wild. Don't you remember? We saw stars. Ethan fell silent, clearly unable to argue. Taking the opportunity, I wrapped my arms around his waist and nuzzled closer into my alpha's warm chest. I am pregnant with your baby, I said stubbornly. So you're not allowed to leave me. You're not allowed to go running off to your first love. That last line came out in a soft grumble, but he caught it anyway. First love, he repeated slowly. Then, almost amused. Ah, so we've reached that part of the story now. I was wondering. I looked up at him. Don't play dumb. At the beginning, you only looked at me because I reminded you of him. Without warning, he gave me a light smack on the butt. His voice turned serious, firmer than I'd ever heard it before. That was never true. I've only ever liked one person, he said, looking into my eyes. You. I froze. Then he added softly, I've only ever loved my sometimes sweet, sometimes spicy Ryan. You were the one back then. You're still the one now. And you'll be the one forever. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. Those words, they stirred something deeper than any kiss ever had. My entire chest filled with warmth. I couldn't help it. Spinning around, I straddled his lap and faced him directly. Really? I whispered, searching his face. Really, he replied, helpless and indulgent. If I'm lying, you can chop me to pieces. Overjoyed, I threw my arms around his neck and nestled into his shoulder. Without warning, Ethan stood up, one arm firmly supporting my lower back. Startled, I instinctively wrapped my legs around his waist. Just like that, he carried me upstairs. By the time we reached the bedroom, the air was thick with the mingling scent of our pheromones, his like snow-covered mountains, mine like soft, blooming cherry blossoms. Over the next few days, Ethan Carter started coming home right after work, and any free moment he had was spent with me. Whenever I checked in on him, even suddenly, he'd reply instantly. He even showed me his phone voluntarily. I went through his contacts on WeChat, and guess what? I couldn't even find a trace of Shane's number. Only then did my unease finally begin to melt away. But life, of course, loves throwing curveballs. That day, Ethan and I went out to eat at a nice restaurant. After the meal, he bumped into a project partner and went off to chat. I waited for him in the lobby. Suddenly, someone sat across from me and said in surprise, "Ryan?" I looked up at the sound of my name, and the moment I saw his face, my heart skipped a beat. Shane. Ethan's first love. Slim, delicate, and looking exactly like the perfect image in every memory. "What are you doing here?" he asked sharply, eyeing me with suspicion. "Still harassing Ethan? Can't believe you're still hanging around like a ghost." Panic flickered through me, but I steadied myself. I reminded myself I'm the real deal now. I'm the one beside Ethan. I'm the husband. So I stood up, holding my cup calmly. Why wouldn't I be here? I came with my husband, Ethan Carter. At that, Shane let out a laugh like I'd just told him the funniest joke on earth. Your husband? Don't kid yourself. You think Ethan would ever fall for someone as rude and aggressive as you? Spare him, seriously. It's gross. I blinked, stunned. Excuse me, what did I just hear? A kind, thoughtful, honest, optimistic, courageous, humble, hardworking, adorable Omega like me, described as gross? This guy's downright vicious. You better watch your mouth, I warned with a serious look. Careful not to get struck by lightning for lying like that. Shane stood, stepping closer, his tone full of scorn. Wow, a year apart and you've really gotten good at faking it. Then his gaze shifted behind me, lips curling up. Let's see who Ethan chooses, shall we? With that, he suddenly reached out and tried to yank me toward him. Instinctively, I dumped my drink all over him. For the record, I'm a peaceful Omega, gentle and patient. I don't get angry easily. But oh, the satisfaction I felt in that moment was unmatched. Before I could even react further, I heard fast footsteps behind me. Ethan had arrived. Shane immediately went into victim mode. Ethan, look! Ryan's being mean again. He looked so pitiful. I was just saying hi and he threw his drink on me. My heart thudded in my chest. I slowly turned my head toward Ethan, who had stepped up beside me. Nervous, I clenched my fists. Ethan gave me a once-over, examining my expression like he was trying to confirm something. Then, looking directly at me, he asked, "Did he bully you?" My nose stung. Tears welled up, and I nodded hard. Yeah. Shane's smug expression froze. Wait, Ethan, shouldn't you be asking me that? But Ethan simply pulled me into his arms, his hand gently pressing against my waist. Then, finally, he turned toward Shane, his voice dropping cold and sharp. We're not that close. And Ryan would never lash out for no reason. If someone pushed him, they probably deserved it. Shane stared, stunned. No reason? Did you forget all the times he made your life miserable before? Ethan's face remained perfectly calm. That was just flirting between us. Hard to understand? Shane looked as if he'd just been hit by a truck. Then Ethan added, voice low and commanding, Apologize. His tone left no room for argument. Look how shaken up you've made my Ryan. Shane stood frozen for a moment, then finally muttered, Sorry. Ethan grabbed my hand and led me away. He chose me, over his first love, without hesitation. My heart overflowed with joy. Eyes teary with emotion, I whispered, Babe, you finally let me win, just once. Ethan smiled and gently squeezed my hand. Don't worry, I won't let you lose again. I was flying high, floating on happiness. Unfortunately, I floated too hard. In my daze, I didn't see the immaculately polished glass door right in front of me. With a loud thud, I smacked straight into it, and everything went black. I passed out, then I woke up. As the pounding in my head slowly eased, memories began to flood back. Everything between Ethan Carter and me. Our past, the accident, and these last 3 months we spent together. Scene after scene played like a film in my mind. And then it hit me like a truck. All that first love, stand-in romance, tragic me and his savior nonsense? None of it was real. After the car accident, I must have gone full delusional. I'd subconsciously imagined myself as the melodramatic Omega protagonist from one of those ridiculous web novels. And I had made Ethan the leading alpha love interest. But Ethan Carter, he's my lifelong nemesis. We've been competing, bickering, and exchanging insults for years. We couldn't even run into each other without trading a jab or two. And now I've slept with him. Done all those unspeakable things. With him. I closed my eyes, dying inside. Oh God, this is actual social death. As I mentally replayed every embarrassing word I'd ever said to Ethan during these amnesia months, I saw nothing but darkness. Was he secretly laughing at me this whole time? Then again, he seemed to be enjoying it lately. Okay, deep breaths. Even if I was the one with the memory loss, he's not blameless. What's wrong with him? Did he really fall for the scrambled brain version of me? What's he gonna do now that I remember everything? My chest tightened. I didn't dare think about the possibilities. Nope. I needed to retreat first, regroup, escape. Ethan wasn't in the hospital room at the moment. I had no idea where he'd gone. Perfect. Time to make my move. I slipped out of bed, legs wobbling slightly as I made my way toward the hallway. My brain was a total mess, feet unsteady, turning a corner, only to nearly slam into Ethan. System error. Rebooting. Reflexively, I looked down, avoided his gaze. After a few seconds, I started to turn and flee, only for Ethan to yank me back into his arms. His cool fingers slid up to the back of my neck, gently brushing over the gland he'd practically left his scent all over. His voice dropped, dangerously smooth. Wife, where are you sneaking off to? Instant noodle legs. Face on fire. Ethan Carter! I glared at him, flustered. You took advantage of me, he chuckled. Took advantage? Don't kid yourself. You were very willing. I've got receipts, remember? Cue mental replay of all those shameful things he tricked me into saying and doing while I was out of it. I lunged for his phone pocket in a panic, only for him to swiftly catch my wrist and pull me closer. He leaned in, his voice brushing my ear like a cool breeze laced with teasing. Ryan, how could you be so cruel? Just gonna play and dump me? I wasn't. I began to argue instinctively. He looked into my eyes, deadly serious. Then let's go home. I blinked, completely confused. Why was he acting like nothing's changed, even after I recovered? We took a few steps, his hand firmly gripping mine. Then I stopped. Ethan, we weren't even really a couple before. I was just confused after the accident, that's all. I trailed off as his expression darkened. My voice shrank along with my courage. His voice was steady, deep. Then let me say the same words back to you. Look at me, Ryan. I don't believe your eyes are empty. Before I could react, he cupped my face with both hands. Our eyes met, and in those dark eyes I saw it. Love, clear and undeniable. My heart skipped a beat. No, my mind wasn't empty. In fact, it was colorful now. But, I muttered, pouting slightly, you never even confessed properly. How can you say we're together? He nodded, suddenly solemn. Ryan, I like you. Will you marry me? My eyes widened. Wrong line. It's date. Ask me to date you. Try again. Ethan didn't miss a beat. I like you. Will you go out with me? My heart was doing backflips. Took me 2 seconds to convince myself. Trying not to smile too hard, I said with mock reluctance, all right, I guess I'll say yes. Honestly, being with Ethan Carter might not be so bad. And clearly, the guy can't live without me. So, I guess I'll just graciously dote on him for the rest of our lives. My mom was never gravely ill, and I was never some poor, pitiful nobody. My dad passed away early, leaving just the two of us. A few years ago, once I took control of the company, my mom moved abroad to enjoy her life. I've known Ethan Carter for nearly 7 years now. He was a year above me in school. Honestly, I don't even remember why we started butting heads in the first place. It's been so long. The original reasons faded, but the rivalry stuck. Day after day, clashing with each other became our normal. At some point, we ended up leaving permanent marks on each other's lives. As for Shen, definitely not some first love or tragic romantic figure. Just a classmate from college who had an unrequited crush on Ethan. Maybe it's the fake act he always puts on, or maybe he's just annoyingly two-faced. Either way, I couldn't stand him. The downside of regaining my memory? I had to go back to work. Before, Ethan was handling things for me. He'd entrusted decisions to someone reliable while I was recovering. But now, no more sleeping in until noon. Just endless meetings and reports. Absolute torture. So that night, I looked at Ethan and sighed. Let's say, hypothetically, you couldn't just support me financially? Keep me as a spoiled house husband? Without missing a beat, his hand sneakily slipped under my shirt, resting on my waist. You don't need to be hypothetical. I'll take care of you. I let out a long sigh, neither agreeing nor refusing, but secretly pleased. As we talked, Ethan suddenly latched onto another topic he was obsessed with. Ryan, why don't you call me hubby anymore? Ugh, so clingy. I absolutely cannot say that word now. I replied lazily, we're not even married. You wish. To which he asked immediately, then when are we getting married? I started counting on my fingers. We've only been officially dating for, 3 days? He went quiet for a second, then said, what about the 2 months before that? I grinned mischievously. Those were just free trials you got to enjoy without paying. The end.